we've always sort of tried to grow our own vegetables and limit energy use and cycle and all that stuff. Come on then. Come on. Come on. Quint. Well, I can't really see any alternative in the long term. I think, we have to live with what we've got, don't we? So it probably makes sense to try and do that as much as we can now before everything's spoiled.
A long time ago in the 1970s, 1980s, we tried to set a community up ourselves when we were living in another part of England. But we had about 10 people and we had the money, but we couldn't find anywhere. We couldn't find the right place. So I was teaching and my wife was a social worker. So we went abroad instead. And then eventually when we came back, we thought, do you remember that silly idea we had about living in a community? Let's try it again. So we went to the Diggers and Dreamers website and found lots of places, and we went to look at some. And then when we came to OldHall, we thought, yeah, this is the nicest one. This is the best one. So we then asked if we could come, and then we had a few visits so people could see what we were like, and we could see what OldHall was like. And then when a place became available, we moved in. Well, it's officially called an intentional community. In other words, it came together because people wanted it to happen and planned it to happen. I tend to say I live on, because some people get the wrong impression. If you say you live in a community, they don't know whether you mean you're living in a village or you're living like in an old-fashioned hippie commune. So I tend to say we live on farm where we try to be organic, and there are about 50 of us, and we try and share things.
Well, I moved here primarily, to bring up my children, and I was pleased with the upbringing because I was a single parent and it gave them opportunities. I was pleased to give my children a good start. I felt it was a good start. But it's a bit of a privileged lifestyle, to be honest. It's sustainable for us because we're only a few, but it certainly wouldn't work for everybody, We had a lot more people living here. I'm not sure how great it is keeping cows at the moment, We have a lot of land, so I do think it's a bit of a life of privilege rather than sustainable for the greater number. I came 34 years ago and I knew about OldHall because it was in the local paper. And when I was a young child, I used to come here to church when it was a monastery because I lived fairly locally. And I think I came home from college once and read it in the local paper at my mother's, and then a couple of years later met somebody who'd been a woofer here, and he brought me here on a visit. So that's how it happened, really. I don't know if it's good or bad, I just think it's the way it is, just different.
That one. Okay. The big ones.
Sorry, yes. This is a potato, isn't it?
Yes, potato. Yeah.
There we go.
I mean, I get up. Sorry, that's a bit boring. Stop getting up. Obviously, I get up. I'll do some exercises. That's not really relevant, but and then I do my day's work, which could be weeding, planting seedlings in the potting shed, planting out here. I think it's good for the planet, but it's good for a person's well-being, and there's a lot of research about that now, about people, well-being being equated with how many green spaces they can access, and a lot of people don't always have access to that. I couldn't just live a normal life. I just really couldn't. I just can't. I just don't believe in it. I tried to live a normal life for 1 year, so-called normal life. I just could not. I just thought, this is so unnatural. I don't know my neighbours. I don't know any people further up the street. If I want to keep fit, I have to go to the gym. If I want to get my food, it's all wrapped in packaging. It was very alienating lifestyle, I found, because I'd grown up with my family all living around the corner, and I'd grown up going to the same schools with the same friends, and suddenly I was living this life with very little connection, and I just thought, this is not normal. This doesn't feel good.